Welcome back to Outdoors with Larry Ray on ESPN 790 AM. Brought to you proudly by the Tennessee Wildlife and Resources Agency.
Hey, good Saturday morning, and welcome back to Outdoors with Larry Ray. Ron Wong here, along with Bill Cooksey, and thank you, Shelby McCall, for everything that you do to try to keep us straight today, and I know that's not going to be easy. And, Bill, what a great segment they're talking about, and I'm really excited about the Ducks Unlimited Expo coming back to Memphis in 2025.
Me too, Ron. We need another great event like that in Memphis. It's been too long since we had it going on, so yeah. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. Hey, we're going to switch gears now and talk fishing, and, you know, Bill and I both love to talk fishing. Our next guest has won the 2023 Dakota Lithium Bassmaster Kayak Series Angler of the Year. And golly, I got to tell you something, because I cover some kayak events. I know how tough that is. It's just, it's really hard to do something like that. We want to welcome in Rus Snyder of Pegram, Tennessee. Good morning. How are you, Russ?
Good morning. How you guys doing today?
Doing great.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, first of all, on behalf of Larry and Bill, congratulations on winning AOY. I know that means a lot to you, but, you know, tell our listeners, would you rather win a championship or AOY, and why?
I'd say AOY. You know, I'd say most people would probably say that. The championship's just one big tournament. With AOY, it's just a culmination of all the events throughout the season, and to me that personally that means a lot more. So it's, you know, definitely a goal of mine going into any tournament season is to get AOY and for it to all the stars to align this year, and had a few really good tournaments, and just really fortunate for it to turn out the way it did. Really excited and happy about it.
Well, you fished. There was 4 events, I believe, and you went
5 events, but it was I fished 4 personally. It's your best 3 out of the 5 possible events. I did miss one over at Possum Kingdom over in Texas,
right.
But the other ones I fished were the Susquehanna River in Pennsylvania, Lake Hartwell in South Carolina, and Lake Gunnersville in Alabama. And La Crosse, Upper Mississippi River over in Wisconsin.
Oh,
the 4 events that I fished.
Well, Russ, you know, first of all, you qualified for the kayak BASS Classic that they're going to have next year. But also, you know, you were born and lived in California, Northern California, and living in that area really gave you all the waters that you could possibly, different kinds of water that you could fish.
Yep.
That helps prepare you to travel throughout the U.S. to fish. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, anybody, you know, the guys who I grew up with and fished those Northern California lakes, you know, that part of the country, they were really blessed to have so many different types of waters, from really, you know, highland reservoirs with a lot of spotted bass like Lake Shasta and Oroville. Then you have Clear Lake, which is a natural lake, you know, deepest spots maybe 40 feet deep, and it's got a bunch of backwaters and vegetation and grass and tules. And then, you know, you have a place like the California Delta, which is a tidal fishery in its own.
Yeah.
It's a monster in its own, just with you know, it's a really complex place and difficult place to figure out. But, you know, and then there's lakes like Lake Berryessa and Folsom, which are, you know, have spotted bass, smallmouth, and largemouth.
Yeah.
All 3 are all pretty evenly spread out throughout those 2 lakes. And but just having all those, and those are all the lakes I grew up fishing and did tournaments while I grew up living there. And, you know, it's because of that experience that it kind of set the path for me to feel comfortable traveling the country and fishing tournaments all over the country on so many different bodies of water.
That's so good to hear.
Yeah.
You know, because I'll tell you, I was born 30 minutes from Folsom Lake.
were you?
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. So
yeah, Sacramento. I was in the Bay Area, which is a little out of the way to get to. You know,
right.
the closest place is maybe an hour, 2 hours away. Or in Sacramento, you got that's if you're going to be a bass fisherman in California, that's the best place to live. You're right in the middle of all of it.
Absolutely. Listen, this people are starting to really understand how competitive kayak tournament fishing has become over the years, and tell our listeners about the competition that you go against.
Yeah, it's I used to fish bass boat tournaments, and I made the transition to kayak tournaments about 7 years ago. I moved out to Tennessee about 10 years ago, and so some of the things kind of carry over and are very similar, but the one main difference is it's the way that the fish are measured is for inches,
right.
inches instead of weight. So we get a board, we put the fish on the board, and we take a photo of the fish along with a ID little tag that they gave us, just, so they know that we caught it that day, and it's all GPS tagged on the picture as well. And we submit those pictures, and but otherwise, it's very similar to fishing out of a bass boat. A lot of these kayaks nowadays have really fancy electronics and the live scope, and they're motors. I got a Torpedo motor powering my Wilderness Systems Attack 120. It's pretty similar to like fishing out of like a little mini bass boat. And over the years, it's definitely gotten a lot more and more competitive. This past tournament we just had on the Susquehanna River, there was Bassmaster Elite Series pros Michael Iaconelli and Greg DePalma, as well as a number of really good river fishermen. Some of the best river fishermen in the country that have spent their lives just only fishing rivers like the Susquehanna and the New, and there's a handful of those guys out there, and they never really got into the bass boat thing, but instead. Those are some of the toughest competitors for sure, like your Drew Gregory's and Jody Queens.
All those are great fishermen. They
are, yeah.
You're absolutely right. Hey,
and
listen.
It's been a lot of fun competing against those guys, though, and that's where we want the sport. We want level competition to get higher and higher, and that's how the sport's going to grow.
Right.
Russ, I've got to ask something as a fishing hack, because that's what I am. I fished for a long time. Ron's really good. I'm just an average guy. And one of the things that impresses me the most with pros like you, especially those of you who win an Angler of the Year, which means you fish really well on a lot of different waters, if you could give just a little bit of advice for regular Joes when they're getting ready to go to a new body of water to fish, what would it be?
Good question.
I guess one good advice, if you're a tournament fisherman, kayak fishing really made me fish a lot different, because in a bass boat you can bounce from one spot to the next and all over the lake. You can try a certain type of bank on one section of the lake, and then go 5 miles away and do another section of bank. What I've learned is once I find an area that has a concentration of fish that there's some bigger fish in that area, I'll break down just every little part of that. Even if I'm catching them shallow and getting them up in the grass somewhere, I'll still search out like those deeper little ledges and rock piles. And even if they're not on them at the moment, I'll really break down that area and pick apart every single little piece of cover or somewhere, even if they're not on them currently, because a lot of times conditions change, and knowing where those other spots are within that area can play a big factor in having success, more times than not.
So
in a bass boat, I wouldn't do that as much. In a bass boat, I would just kind of find one stretch of bank. I'd find different types of stretches on different parts of the lake, but I wouldn't break down and I try to search out areas that have like a multitude of different structure or cover or whatever within a smaller, whether it's docks or having a creek in the back and having rock or wood or as many different things that I can find. I really like searching out those areas and then picking them apart and just kind of breaking everything down.
Russ, you can't do this by yourself, hitting the road and paying the entry fees and trying to make a living, but you're doing a great job of it. And talk a little bit about your sponsors.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. The sponsors I've been working with, I've I got 7 of them right now, and I like to stay loyal to the companies that I work with and have a very personal relationship with each one of them, which I really feel like I do with these companies. But again, Wilderness Systems kayaks, I've been running the Attack 120 for 7 years. It's my first kayak. I also have a Recon as well. I got a couple of each, but the boat that I've been fishing out of for 7 years, it's held up, and it's the original one that got me into kayak fishing.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's powered by a Torqeedo 1103 motor. And that motor, just you could run miles and miles and hours with that thing. They're tough as nails, and they really work good, especially if there's any wind or current. And it's all foot steered, so I steer in that kayak with my feet. There's little pedals that are on cables, so it's all hands-free. And there's the throttle right by my hip, which I actually use my elbow to kind of bump forward and back with that throttle. I've been with iRod for about 5 years now. They were nice enough to let me design one of my own signature series rods, the Snyders Sniper. It's a 7'5", moderate fast rod, a medium heavy. It's great paired with like 40-pound braid with a lot of reaction baits, whether it's top water like a spook, a chatterbait, spinnerbait, swing head. And Music City Outdoors, local tackle shop here in Nashville. They have all different kinds of kayaks, great people, really friendly. Catch Outdoors, they make the measuring boards and a number of other accessories, kayak carts, and Yak Attack, which also makes all sorts of different types of kayak accessories, rod holders, camera mounts, the black pack.
Right.
Those companies have been working with them for a while now, and they've all have treated me really good. Oh, and of course, Dakota Lithium. I don't want to forget them. They've been a big one. They, power my fish finders as well as my truck, which I actually kind of live in my truck. I got a little refrigerator and a big power source there, and I've ripped out all the seats and pretty much live in that thing. I couldn't do it without Dakota Lithium batteries.
Russ, we've got about 30 seconds left. If our listeners want to follow you, how would they do that?
You can follow me on Instagram or Facebook. That's Rus, R-U-S with one S. Last name Snyders, S-N-Y-D-E-R-S.
Hey, we at Outdoors with Larry Ray want to wish you all the best moving forward, and I hope to see you at the Bassmaster Classic in 2024 there in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
I can't wait to be there. I'm really looking forward to it, and I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to be on the show.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
You too. Take care, guys.
All right, hey, it's time for another break here on Outdoors with Larry Ray, and we will be right back with you.